and it's right here, remove duplicates. You see stable data 1 through 5, right? We've got 2 1s here.
Ooh,
this is kind of handy. You just grab it, remove duplicates. Yep, that's what I want to do. Click, boom. It'll tell you exactly what it found, right? That's pretty darn handy, especially if you're working with small data sets. Here's the only thing I would caution you to be aware of. Whatever duplicate, if there's 2 rows out there, we as good human beings sometimes put stupid stuff in databases. So, for example, in a DB world, you may have an original employee and a quadro alternate payee, right? Or in a health world, you may have an original employee and a QMESCO covered child, right? But based on the way the human put the data in the system, it has 2 rows that look identical until you get to some unique value, such as in the DB world, maybe 2 different checks. You know, one goes to Bank of America, one goes to Fidelity. In the H&B world, maybe it's the original employee is covered by Cigna based on the zip code they live in, but the QMESCO covered child that lives across country is in Blue Shield, right? But because the way the data was originally set up, you don't notice that. The duplicate remover, depending on the column, let's say this was SSN, if you do, get rid of duplicate SSNs, right? That's the punishment for failure for messing with that. It's not anything bad, right? You just have to know that's what could happen. Any questions around the duplicate remover? It's actually pretty handy if you've never used it. Okay. All right. This next one is not going to be anything exciting, but here is what it is. If you're a team leader on the phone, save this little nugget. It will make your life easy later on when an analyst does not know how to do a mail merge. If you're an analyst on this phone, wake up for 30 seconds. This will save you an afternoon's worth of work, and usually those afternoons are Friday afternoons when the weather's beautiful outside. Sooner or later, someone's going to give you some crappy data like this, right? It's just a bunch of junk shoved into one thing, right? And you're going to say, gosh, I don't want to go through and parse all that out. The answer to your woes is data text to columns, right? And I went ahead and did it here just so you could kind of see what it would look like, but we'll repeat it here. Let's say we put it here. And all you're going to do is you're going to say data, text columns, right? You're going to choose delimited with. You're going to want to use a comma, right, and see how it comes out this way. The other one is to go fixed with. Fixed with is better for flat files. It doesn't work so well in this scenario because it tries to truncate off people's names. So we'll go with delimited with, right? Too easy. Yep, got a comma in there. Yep, that sounds lovely. I don't want to put it in G16. Instead, I want to take it over here. And I'm going to put it in I. Yep, there we go. That sounds great. Now I've got that. It's set for my mail merge. My client is a grammar Nazi, so they don't want things to be, all uppercase or lowercase. That's not a problem. Come down through here, put that in there. Boom. Now you can do your mail merge. Took maybe all of 5 minutes to do the whole thing, right? Again, it's not something that you're gonna wow your friends at a cocktail party with. But that sort of behavior there will get your special projects done in an hour instead of 6 hours on a Friday afternoon. Any questions about that? Yes,
ma'am. Question kind of like that, but not really. I receive data files from an external carrier that put dashes into SSNs, and since ours use dashes, is there some quick fix if I bring a text file up to Excel to be able to remove those dashes, or no?
Yep, you sure can. You can do it a couple different ways. Remind me when we start talking about macros here in a minute. You could do a macro to rub it out real quick, or you could use your left, right, mid, and concatenation. So if we've got, right, like that. So this is your raw data from whomever. You can do your left, your mid, and your right. So this one, or actually what you may end up doing is just using the mid function all the way along. So that's going to say, hey, I want you to go into this cell. I want you to start at position 1. And I want you to grab the first three characters, right? Like that. That'll grab that. And then all we'll do is we'll copy that same formula.
Probably don't remember.
And now we're going to tell it, okay, instead of starting at position 1, I want you to start at position 5 and grab 2, right? There's your 4, 5. And then I want you to start at position 7, something to that effect. And I want you to grab 4. Let's see if I got that right. now you've got it all parsed out like so. And then to put it back together, all you're going to do is you can do it a couple ways, but the simple way is this, right? And then from there, this is concatenated. If you wanted it formatted back to SSN with the dashes in it kind of inferred, you can format it back into special. Nope, that didn't work. We'll do it this way. Values. Okay, and then on this one, special security number. And there you have it. So formatted at the end.
Yep.
Right? Something like that. I mean, that's a pretty rudimentary way to do it. You could write a little module to make it a lot faster, but you can do that and just churn right through it. Okay? Any other questions? Okay. All right, folks, bear with me. I know this is some exciting, engaging stuff for a Thursday morning, but it is actually pretty useful. All right, so pivot tables. Pivot tables is one of those things that a lot of people will turn their nose up at, because of whatever reason. They've never used them, they don't understand them, it doesn't matter, right? Here's what I will tell you. Pivot tables will allow you to collect a lot of data, mix it up a little bit, and be able to tell your boss and or client and or peer group what the data says in a very short order, right? So
this one you can use
here's just some sample SR stuff, right? So here's a month. Here's SR counts for each month, right? All we actually did was inserted a pivot table, which I'll show you how to do that here in a sec, and it grabbed the information and it put it over here, right? And once you've got it over here, you can say I want the months going down the row side, and I want the counts for each month. Well, what we can say is, oh gosh, look, I always thought January was our busy period. Turns out October to November is our busy period. Who knew, right? But if for some reason you don't actually want to show things as percents, all you do, I'll do that a little slower, is you click on it. You want to go down to the value field settings, right? And it's showing you sums. I don't want to show it as a grand total, right? I may want to say no calculation. And in no calculation, it will give you the sum of every one of those Januaries, right? You could definitely also go in and say, I want to take this plus, go down here and find January again and do that business all the way down. You absolutely could do that. There's no problem with that. But the way to do it with a pivot table is you come in here, wipe this out real quick. You just say, here's my data. I want to come in. I want to insert a pivot table. It will default and grab the information for you. New worksheet, that just makes life easy. You don't have to do it that way. Bring your months down. Okay. Bring your SR counts into your values. There you go. Right? And so here's what that's really useful for. If you're a team leader, right, you're going to be doing all sorts of OE kickoffs, blah, 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 testing conversations with your clients, you name it, right? Pivot tables, if you've got your SR data or you've got your testing data or your file data, whatever data you're looking at, if you've got access to that while you're sitting there with your client, right, whether that's because you saved it to your C drive or you have, internet access, you can throw this stuff in Excel and answer a question right there on the fly, right? Because here's a real-life example. You go over to the client, you're talking about open enrollment, Debbie Downer at the client, she's sitting there talking about how everything was wrong last year, and oh my gosh, when January came, the sky fell, and you have to give her some space so she can get it off her chest. Then, while she's talking, you do a quick pivot table of your SRs, and you can say, well, you're right, January is always a challenge, but actually for eligibility, we only had 384 SRs this year compared to last year when we had 500. Things actually went down by 40%. So we're really doing pretty good. And that'll shut Debbie up pretty quick when you turn your screen around and you short the pivot table, right? The alternative version of that is when you're inside Mercer, right? And you're going to run into somebody that's saying, gosh, everything seems to take so long, blah, 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 blah. You can go in and you can say, look, we're churning out an SR every 10 minutes. What do you want from me? So it's just a useful way to get data and crank through it in a very time-effective Any questions on what the use is of that one? Okay. All right. So then from there, the next natural progression on pivot tables is to show me period over period, right? And really how you do that, this one all we did is we added the year column here. See the January 13, blah, 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 blah. Here's your SR counts. The way to do that is these are called groupings or ungroupings. So if you ungroup it, it will show everything that way. If you come in and you group it, it will ask you what you want to group by. Well, I want to do months, quarters, years, boom, done, right? And so what this is good for is sooner or later you're at the client again, Debbie Downer gets on her high horse, she goes through it, you finally get her to calm down, right? Then some executive is going to come in, and the executives always come in and they're late and they're on their BlackBerry and they have 30 seconds to talk to you, right? They want to know, hey, how many SRs do we get per quarter? And you have an option in front of you. You can either say, A, give me a second and I'll do a quick pivot table for you, or you can say, B, I don't know, I'll get back to you. If you go down the road of, I don't know, but I'll get back to you, you just signed yourself up for some work, and here's why. You're going to go find the answer. Well, the answer was 25. That's how many we had. Or, I'm sorry, 75. That's how many we had. You're going to email that to the executive. You're going to turn your computer off and go home. The executive is going to email you back at midnight and ask you more questions. And then you're going to start playing ping pong back and forth, and before you know it, you've got a whole other, special project to go do for somebody. Whereas, had you just done a quick pivot table, you can show them the data. They'll say, oh, that sounds great, and they'll walk out and go on with their life, right? So it's not, again, something that you'll use maybe every single day, but it is something that is pretty useful when you need it. Any questions about pivot table, how the grouping works, how the field setting works, that sort of stuff? By the way, if you're completely confused at pivot tables and you just don't want to come off mute, that's okay, right? The headline is this: go get your data, go to insert, go to pivot table, and just start playing with it. Okay? So if you're absolutely confused, don't worry about it. That's how you get around it. All right, and the final one on this is signatures, right? Sooner or later, you're going to have to sign off on something. It's part of life, right? For those of you that have not used it, tried to put a little thing in here, and yes, this is my little third grade Crayola marker here because they took Snag It away from me. But if you go to insert, come all the way over here to signature line, right? You can come in and say, whatever, I am John the signer, and I sign things, right? And, nowhere at yahoo.com, right? Plug that baby in, boom, there it is, right? What it does, whenever you hit save and you come back in a document, it will pop this little ribbon up here that says, hey, this needs to be signed. Chances are you won't use this function, right? However, if for some reason you have a client that conditionally signs off on everything, and basically what that means is it gives them the right to renege or crawfish on stuff, that's where this feature comes in useful, right? So, not anything exciting, but it is something that will help you. All right, before we swap over to macros and VBA, any questions on any